Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am PANCZASU and welcome to my Cravers tutorial slash playthrough for Endless Space 2. If you are a newcomer to my channel, as usual I have a few words of warning for you. My series are dedicated to teaching people how I play, by which I mean I'll just play through an entire game and tell everybody what I do and why do I do all of the things that I do, which means that I'll talk a lot during this series. So if you're not into talking, if you just care about action, this is probably not a video for you, or a channel for that matter, because I always talk a lot. That's the whole purpose of me being here. But with that out of the way, let us talk a little bit about what we are going to do here today. So we're going to play as the Cravers indeed, and we're going to go for a large galaxy with 8 competitors, and let's say Spiral 2 actually reminds me of the oldest days of Endless Space 2, so let's go for Spiral 2 indeed. As for the other settings, you can view them right now to make sure that our games are compatible. Obviously we're playing on fast speed. And there is pretty much everything I needed to say over there. So, what's the deal with the Cravers? What's the problem with Cravers? Well, at the end of the last series, I let all of my viewers vote for who they wanted me to cover next. And it was a close race between the Cravers and the Riftborn, but after some back and forth action, eventually the Cravers won this race. And this is the faction I'm going to cover next, which is good because they are an interesting faction. They're not like what they were in Endless Space 1. Those Cravers, those guys over here, are the buff-up cousins of Endless Space 1's Cravers. These guys are much stronger than they were in the previous game, because in the previous game, outside the Cravers were meh, nothing special. They were supposed to be warmongers, but Hishu was just so much better at warmongering than the Cravers ever could be. In this game, however, Cravers are indeed terrifying, and I'll teach you exactly why that is and how to play as them, because they are kind of self-defeating in a way, because they eat themselves. Cravers deplete planets. They are extremely efficient while the planets are not yet depleted, as you can see right now, but eventually they turn planets into crap, which is also why everybody hates the Cravers, not because you are eternally at war, but because you make the galaxy wars for everybody out there, which people don't really appreciate. However, unlike in Endless Space 1, this is only your population trait. You also have your affinity, which is slave drivers, which helps you a great deal. For example, it lets you put some slaves on those depleted planets and make those planets not completely useless. They are kind of still rubbish, but not as rubbish as they would be without those slaves on those planets. So, you know, there are some ways you can abuse that. Besides, you can also put those slaves on non-depleted planets, in which case they'll just function like everybody else, every other population in the galaxy, except they're more efficient if they have a Craver supervisor. There are also a bunch of other traits. We're not going to go into them. I'm not going to discuss the ships for right now either. Let's just get into this. I disabled the faction introduction because you can watch that on YouTube if you want. Oh, in your game, because I'm assuming most of you have Endless Space 2, right? So, I'll just briefly talk about the ships that the Cravers have. You may think that they are glass cannoneer or whatever. They are not. They're actually very well balanced ships. They don't have a lot of support modules on some of their ships, but they still do on the big coordinator ships. And on the carriers, of course, as well. Overall, I would say I'm really a big fan of the Craver ships. They can really deal a lot of damage, and they also have a decent amount of defenses to boot. I'm just a very big fan of them. They are one of the better ships in the game. Not the best, certainly not even close, but, well, by saying not even close, I'm kind of overdoing this. But anyway, let's not talk about the ships anymore. Let's talk about us, the Cravers, the plague of the galaxy. We are the plague. And what do the plagues do? Well, the plagues find their hosts and they kill their hosts, so later on they have to move on or else they die. We are just like that. The flames of our wrath need to be constantly rekindled or else we risk extinction. So, what do you do on your first turn? Well, on your first turn you make one of the 2, or rather maybe 3 biggest choices in the game. So you know, no pressure or anything, but as you can see we start in a situation where we have one static planet with 2 Cravers on it and 1 Harsham. Now, I'll tell you what the situation is on your home system. Usually, if you play on the settings that I play on, your home system has 4 planets. One is your starting planet, one is a planet that is either easy to colonize or is colonizable instantly, and 2 planets are difficult to colonize. In our case, we are actually extraordinarily lucky. I haven't seen this kind of stat very often indeed. It's actually very, very rare to happen, so oh well. That does kind of defeat the purpose of demonstrating the worst case scenario, but still, usually 2 of those planets are crap, 1 planet is easy to colonize. In our case, 2 of those planets are easy to colonize, which is absolutely amazing. And 1 of them even has a lot of strategic resources on it, which makes it even better. But 1 also has some curious little thingies, subterranean resources potentially, and a life form, which could be a good anomaly. So both of those could be really good. And also lavas, I'm really a big fan of lava, and this has a lot of bonus good anomalies on it as well. So overall, our setting system is really good. Now, regardless of whatever you do over here, you start by making drone networks, or basically or every time, because drone networks are the thing to kickstart your economy in the early game. Now, however, I did mention that you need to make some kind of big decision as you go into your game. What decision can that be, you ask? Well, as the Cravers, you have this cutesy little thing called feeding pits. Those things transform your slaves into goop, which later can the Cravers drink or eat, or I don't know what they do with it. I don't even want to know what they do with it, honestly. But either way, this is one of the choices you can do. You can instantly, at the start of the game, turn your slaves into food. Now, should you actually do this? The answer is no, you shouldn't. That's the short answer to the phrase. The long answer is, you should not do this under most circumstances, but if you believe that within the next 15 turns at fast game speed, you can find your closest neighbor and conquer your closest neighbor, as in conquer completely, drive this neighbor to extinction. If you're absolutely certain that you can indeed do that, then yes, you should go ahead and start by using the feeding pits. But as I said, this is a very situational thing that doesn't happen very often. It's extremely high risk and extremely high reward. Basically what it does is that, despite you thinking that, well, you sacrifice the population and you'll drop in population, well, actually no, because of how efficient the Cravers are on undepleted planets, and because of the bonuses that the feeding pits give you, you would actually gain more population on your starting planet. Or rather, you would actually, well, I mean, let's put it differently. After 10 turns, you'd have the same amount of population as you would if you were not using feeding pits. And then you can actually even overshoot it by a little bit. And all the while, you have to keep in mind that Cravers will be much more productive than Harrowshams when fueling your war machine if you want to indeed conquer somebody within 15 turns, which is not an easy feat, mind you. Doable, but difficult. So, with all of this in mind, we're not going to do anything with the salt. Because, well, I mean, we can scout around before making the decision. Sure, this is what you should do as well, so I'm going to just go ahead and send the scavengers out. I'm not going to check any of the curiosities on my home system just yet, because this would take away my movement, and I need to scout out as much of the nearby territory as humanly possible. So let's see if I can find any system nearby. I do find one indeed, Dolphinus. It has 2 lavas and 2 ash planets. Amazing system for middle to late game, but not for right now, unfortunately, so let's ignore it, I suppose. Now, as for the people ship, what I'm going to do with it is actually kind of simple. I'm going to go ahead and retrofit it so that it has an additional engine. And then with that, I'm going to retrofit it by using the dash to actually install this engine on it, and I'll tell it to move over that way so that it can discover some territory, maybe find a good planet to colonize, and at the very least it will be more mobile so it can turn back to any planets that are easily colonizable. The reason why I send my ships in such formation is because it's most likely that the middle lane will connect to the other lanes, so this is the lane from which it's most likely, it's probably fairly easy to come back from with my ship, whereas from the other lanes it might be actually very difficult. Let's have a quick look at this look of the universe. Alright, so in my current situation, and in fact in most situations, I would encourage not going for the feeding pits and instead playing the game normally. Now, I did mention this is one of the 3 choices you need to make. The other choice is related to your faction quest, and the last choice is related to what you do with your population. Because since now you have not killed your minor faction, this means that you have more options going forward as the game progresses. but we're going to discuss that once it is actually relevant. For now, this was using feeding pits was the only choice you needed to worry about in your first turn. Now as for the rest of the things, you have a selling hero. Now this hero is kind of... it can be used in two different ways. It is a garden and it is a craver. So this means that it can be either a pretty good admiral or a pretty good governor. Now as governor, I'm not thinking about this guy being a good governor because of his final ability, the endless consumption, because usually by the time this guy actually gets endless consumption, most of your plans are depleted. But you may find some juicy new system that, for example, you conquer that you want to get, that you want to use very quickly. And then you can just put this hero on that system and then suck it dry very quickly. So it is useful sometimes, but that's not why I like this guy as a governor. It's not even because of the influence. It is because of the huge amounts of food and industry improvements this guy can give us, even very early on with his basic stuff. Now, alternatively, you can also use him as an admiral, and he can be good for that task as well, but I personally prefer to use him as my governor for the reason that the way I'm going to play my faction quest is in a way, such a way that I can get a free hero. Free hero is always a good thing to get. Besides, in my opinion, this is a better quest options, but I'm going to talk about this later. But either way, I know for a fact I'm going to get a second hero as a quest reward, and that second hero will be my army admiral. So this guy, I'm very comfortable using him as my governor, even though he can be used as either of those. Keep in mind that you can also deploy him instantly, retrofit his ship as well to give him extra engines, or maybe to give him extra scouting ability. This is a very cheap upgrade, as you can see, and you can use him as a scout if you want to. He's also quite a powerful scout, mind you, with all those guns and defenses, but it's not what I do as a Cravers, so I'm just going to install him as governor. Now you may be thinking, wait, wouldn't it be faster for this guy to level up if you were to use him, attach him to a discovery fleet, and have him gain experience from every discovered curiosity? Well, it depends on the galaxy generation, of course, but interestingly, in most of my playthroughs, the amount of time it takes for this guy to level up as governor is more or less similar to the amount of time it takes this guy to level up if he's leading the scouts to gain experience from exploring curiosities. Which is strange, but I'm not going to, discuss with that. I'm just going to use him as a governor. So there you go, that's that.
For as long as
Now there is an intro for the Craver, we don't care about that either. Now this ship has only 2 movement points left, and I want to gain some early bonuses, so let's go ahead and explore some curiosities on the lava planets and see what we find. Maybe it's something useful, maybe it's a quest, maybe it's whatever it is. We found a prime management soon on a lava planet that must be nasty, and also some science. This science is kind of worthless. I mean, it is something, so I'm not going to complain about that. But we also found something that is nothing, which is a bit worse, actually. Oh well, it happens. Now, as for our starting research, it should be dictated by your select planets, but generally speaking, unless my only option for expansion in the early game is a Mediterranean planet, I basically always start with xenobiology. Not just because it lets you colonize Tundra, it's because it gives you access to public-private partnerships. And this is a very important part of playing as Cravers, in my opinion. People may mistake Cravers for those brute force barbarians that don't know anything about technology, but I play Cravers in a way that actually does make them very good at technology. In fact, when we talk about the victory conditions that you can go for, the easiest victory condition for the Cravers, in my opinion, is the science victory. Or if you're feeling uncomfortable with going for science victory, maybe because there are some softwounds in the galaxy or whatever, the other easiest would be the conquest victory. But both of them are almost equally easy and both of them are very viable. As the Cravers, because you gain increased FTSE, and I do mean FTSE, which means all of the resources from your planets, it does mean that this includes science, and this does allow you to become a scientific powerhouse. This is also why I personally really like using this Craver skin for their ships, because, well, I play as the advanced Cravers, the smart ones, the technologically savvy Cravers. So we're going to start with xenobiology, and we're going to try to go for as much science as humanly possible. This will not necessarily be such a priority that I'll put science over anything else. No. Military is still my priority. And things and laws such as, well, let's show you, Spoils of War Act. This is our priority. But when it comes to FTSE, well, we care about science, we care about food, we care about industry. All of those things are important, but science is definitely should not be neglected. And I will do nothing of the sort, thank you very much. Now, I believe I'm almost done except for the laws. Now, as for the laws, you can easily go for the Super Tax Act in the early game, because either way, your population will be content, and you cannot do anything to make them happier. I mean, yes, you can do something to make them happier, but it's not really worth a try. And for the same reason, by which I mean it being very difficult to please the population, I'm not going to go for the Toys for Boys Act, because it's not really useful. Larger cost bill also doesn't interest me. And as for lower fleet costs, well, I'm not making too many ships right now, so just save our influence and keep things as they are right now. Now, you do need to keep in mind that you're playing as the autocracy. I'm not a big fan of autocracy, I'll tell you right now, because for many reasons, partially because of how few laws they can get. Now, autocracy has been changed in case you haven't played Endless Space since forever, basically, or in case you have been living under a rock. Now they have access to one more law, as you can see, but they do have to pay for those laws. And the good thing about autocracy is that your population can never rebel against you, and you can have them absolutely hate your guts at zero approval, but they will still be obedient, which is nice, but not as nice as using other things. Also, as autocracy, you can choose whatever party is in the lead in the set, which sounds awesome on paper, but in practice, you are still limited to your people's wishes, for the very simple reason that, well, if you choose something that your people do not like, then their approval will plummet. And again, your people cannot rebel against you, but they sure can ruin your FTSE output, and you do not want that. Alright, 70 minutes in, we have finished our first turn. Amazing, if I could say so myself. We are doing this very quickly, and I'm actually not even being very sarcastic right now. Usually it takes me longer than that, I think. So anyway, we have discarded PANCZASU. In a system we sent our expansion ship to. That's unlucky, unfortunately. It does mean that we have somebody to eat very quickly, but as Cravers, I'm not actually very keen on eating minor factions. I usually declare war on them, yes, because declaring war on them, because we have Jingo's Joy Bill active, it does give us extra approval. But then I leave those minor factions be and just use them as a source of approval for us. Problem is, right now that's not really the cards for us, and I wanted to expand somewhere. That said, this system is not really a system I would have been able to expand too easily anyway. There's this way, it's extremely long. I don't know what's going on over there, but apparently it's very difficult to find any system over there. What about this scavenger? Can it find a system for us to colonize? It found a black hole. Not quite a place I would like to be in, or next to even. But alright, good going, I suppose. Now, I'm not going to complain really, for the very simple fact that I have an amazing starting system, so I'm not necessarily in such a big rush to find new planets as I would be normally, but I'm still rather displeased about this whole affair, I have to be entirely honest with that. So let's go ahead. I could move back my Puba ship and wait for the other scouts to tell me what to find, but I have a sneaky suspicion that these two lanes link somewhere. I hope they don't link over there, because this would be really damn galaxy generation in my honest opinion, but you never know, we'll see what happens. So let's go ahead and move over this way and finish our turn. Right now we still don't need to make any major decisions, but our faction quest is about to start, so I'll use this as an opportunity to drink some tea while you can read the text over here by pausing the video. In fact, you don't even need to pause because it's very, very short. I'll just let you read those things. I love tea, in case you're new to my channel, because if you are not new to my channel, you already know that I love tea. Anyway, our two options are destroy the ship or capture the ship. Capture the ship is far better in my honest opinion. Destroy does give you titanium, which is nice, but capturing is way easier, does not actually require you to have any military whatsoever, you just need to use one of your two scanning ships to start with, and it gives you a fighting ship as well, which is useful in the early game. It's basically a big tank that it can soak up the damage for the rest of your fleet if necessary. Destruction eventually allows you to gain some other bonuses which can be argued that are nice and better, but I just think that this quest capture is much easier and also gives you bonuses that are worthwhile in their own right. So this is what we're going to go for. This is where the rogue ship is. We're going to try and intercept that. This is not a priority for me right now, because either way, before I can gain actual benefits from this quest, it will be a while, but I'll try to capture whenever I can. Alright, train has been discovered. It has Mediterranean. I hate you. For the very simple reason that, well, I will always, or almost always, go for the other option, and I hate to back up on my choices, and having to colonize Mediterranean would be just that. There is Savannah, which I could colonize, but it's not nearly as enticing as Mediterranean because it does have mineral rich and it does have red sand, which makes this a very good planet to have, because we actually do care a lot about red sand as the Cravers. We also found Essa. Is this a planet system we can colonize easily? It does have a Savannah. So that's a second Savannah, right? Because I'm pretty sure the other system also has a Savannah. Yes, so we do care about Savannah planets. Now the thing is, Savannah are not necessarily like the thing we care about the most, but we do need to have it sooner or later, because free movement, spoiler alert, is required for you completing your faction quest. You cannot possibly do your faction quest without the free movement, so I would have to go for bionic shielding sooner or later anyway. The question is, do I also want to be able to colonize this amazing Mediterranean planet I found? Because if I do, it's a better idea, maybe, to go for rare airforce first and then baryonic shooting. Because keep in mind, if I rush baryonic shooting, it still will take me 5 turns, and I'm not gonna stick around on ESA for 5 turns. I'd rather keep moving and hoping to find a better system to colonize. So, yeah, there is that. Now, as for the next technology we're going to go for, it's something that I'll go back to. First of all, I'll do the other things, so let's see. Let's keep exploring with this ship. It has plenty of movement in case to do that. I'll probably miss my chance and opportunity to actually capture my rogue ship, but I'll have discovered another minor faction which I'm not too keen on. I'd rather not have them here because they will be pirates and they will be annoying, but whatever. Now I could explore securities, but I'm kind of getting on the verge of desperation of finding new systems, but whatever. It's very important to actually indeed explore curiosities, so I'm going to do just that. Check the Mediterranean and the Savannah planets, because they're both things that I care about, kind of. And is it just me, or is this... Yeah, the Savannah planet does actually have red sand. Mediterranean also has Hyperion, which is nice, but I don't care about it as much as I care about red sand, potentially. Potentially, I say, man. This might change as the game progresses. So, you can end your turn for the time being, dear sir. Sorry for that. Got a bit of... Well, not really a cold, it's allergies, but whatever. The end effect is the same. So, on our planet, what we're going to do next? Well, we have 8 turns before it becomes depleted, but we can colonize the other planets when possible. So let's organize things in a way that will allow us to colonize the planet and not actually be depleted. Now, for now it says that I'll still have 1 turn spare, and that I can easily make my build or something like this. But this is deceiving, mind you, because alchemy population will grow, which will speed up the amount of time, which will speed up the depletion process. So I will not be actually able to get silver reality before I'm forced to move on. And you do want to move on before you deplete your planet, because otherwise your Futsu will plummet to the ground and you'll be kind of dead in the water. We don't want that, so this is the build order I'm going to go for, thank you very much. Now, it's obviously also possible that you will be able to use the increased industry production and then get the surreal reality, but we will see how it turns out to be. Now, as for the research, what do you want for your second research? Well, you don't actually want anything for your military technology just yet. Those things are not important just yet. But what things are important is extra food. It's actually important that you grow fast and quickly, because once your plants are depleted, your population will be the only source of foods you can get, and obviously your improvements as well. So you want to have as much population as humanly possible. Besides, if you are to spread like a plague, you do need to be as quick as the plague is, so you will need to be able to grow your Craver population fast. Plasma metallurgy is something I will have to get sooner or later, but I don't need to worry about it right now. None of those things are important for me right now either, although at some point I will have to grab water threat management. And probably atmospheric filtration, because I saw a lot of ash plants around, besides I like ash plants anyway. And overall, the agribusiness is worthless for us because diplomacy is not really Craver's thing. In fact, supermarkets are kind of useful, but you can get around the entire game without actually ever researching those, and as such I will not do anything of the sort. As for other technologies in this tree, well, we don't have a ship to colonize the Mediterranean right now. Besides, it would take us 310 to get this research, and we would not get a lot of benefits from that anyway, so we're gonna skip all that, thank you very much. And as for this technology, so it takes us 510, so that's not really something I'm too concerned about right now. Now, we have nothing else to do, but we can observe something interesting. As you can see, right now the ecologists are gaining support. As we continue moving along, the ecologists will continue gaining support. Now, in some of your games, you may find out that you indeed do not discover the manufacturers. Me discovering the manufacturer increased the support for my military faction because we are Cravers. But had I not discovered two of them so quickly, it's very possible that instead the ecologist faction would have gained majority support and would be the most beneficial faction for you to support, because your Craver population would actually want the ecologists to be in charge, which might sound ridiculous but is actually a thing. Alright, I will not try to intercept this guy just yet. Like I said, it's very important in the early game to keep exploring, in my opinion, because I mean, sure, if I intercepted this guy right now, I would get an extra ship, but I don't really need it right now, do I? So it's much more important, in my opinion, to just keep exploring and see how things are and see where my enemy neighbors are. And, well, there was some enemy over here because those guys spawned because of an AI's interference. I'm going to just leave this place, thank you very much. It's a worthless system anyway, one a hot planet, and okay, then, well, somebody is a busy bee and some neighbor is over there for sure, I think. Anyway, Lupus, what are you? You are Ash, Gas Giant, and the Desert. Not really a system I'm too interested in, but it's good to know that it's there, I suppose. Alright, let's end the turn and drink some tea, because I'm very thirsty. Alright. This is interesting. We have a speed reduced to 0. Where is that actually happening, I wonder? Wait a second, is that for literally everybody? I think it is actually, isn't it? Or is it just for this ship? Let me check real quickly, because no, it's just for this expansion ship. I was a bit confused because I didn't know where this event came from. Anyway, our neighbors are the Vodiani. That's not good! You don't want to fight the Vodiani as the Cravers. Vodiani are a faction that is a bit tricky to get rid of, and it's a bit hard to take over the systems as well. So I'm not happy discovering that they're my neighbors, but this is good. After all, those series are supposed to demonstrate potentially the worst case scenarios, and well, in my case, this is not the worst case scenario. My starting position is really good, but these neighbors are scary. So it's good to know. I mean, not really scary as an AI, because they're kind of crappy actually when you think about it, but nevertheless, they're not the kind of guys I would like to actually have anything to do with. Alright, we found an extra minor population, very interesting. And this will be very important in a moment, but not yet, we'll talk a bit more about minor populations and whatnot in a moment. For now, however, we're going to increase our systems production output in both industry and farming or food, whatever, which is very, very important. You have a bit of movement left, so go ahead and go over there. We have discovered the wheel. We might be on our way to discover the Vodiani homeworld. Now this does tell me that I need to focus on conquering Trime, or how I'm supposed to pronounce this, as quickly as possible, because the Vodiani will try to do the same. Thankfully they are Vodiani, so they're not the fastest at expanding, but you know, they can do it. It's endless AI after all, so they'll do that. Now, Scorpius. Very nice system. I wish I had gone this way, but I didn't, so it happened. And anyway, it has a forest and an atoll planet, which are both very, very nice, and I'm a big fan of both of these. Which one do I want to colonize first? It doesn't really matter. You have to take into consideration that the bigger the planet is, the longer it takes for this planet to actually become depleted. So with that in mind, I will go for... Because I want to have enough time to actually make some infrastructure on the system, I'll go for the forest first, because it's bigger. So there is that. And there we go. Now this is something I'm kind of happy about. If you have watched my Unfolding playthrough, you probably noticed that those cutscenes I would always skip because they had no sound. Now they do have sound, I was able to fix that. So yeah, that was actually my issue, by the way. Not necessarily game's issue, although it was caused by a bit of game's called stability, but let's talk about it later. So there's no need to talk about it whatsoever actually, let's move on. So, I definitely do want to speed up the process of this expansion because you do need to expand as quickly as possible. You are Cravers after all, you are the plague you need to spread. Unless you don't, but again, this is something I'll talk about in a while. For now, I can end this stand, I believe. I don't think there was anything I forgot to do, which is good. We can check up on... Go away, legendary deed. We can check up on our planet to make sure that it's depleted in 3 turns, and it's actually depleted in less than that because we're doing quite well. We have 3 turns worth of time, so this means that we can actually make sustainable farms before making cerebral reality. This is why, by the way, I said that cerebral reality is not something you would do before expanding. It's because I always go for sustainable farms, and I know by heart now that those things can be finished before I need to expand, and I do want those things to be finished, so there's that, yeah. Alrighty then, anyway, this guy is almost depleted. Now, I can theoretically use feeding pits right now and still keep my slave population for later use, but I would rather not do anything of the sort for the time being, thank you very much. Alright, let's keep exploring, let's see what I can see. Bella, it's been completely explored. And it's barren of curiosities, which is a bit annoying, but whatever, let's keep checking things out. What does Ibella have? An ash plant and an arid and a gas giant frozen. Well, it's not a bad system, it's not good either, but at least it tells me that I don't have to hurry up with trying because I have plenty of time before it's actually taken over. So that's good. I've got a neutral star, which is interesting. It's over there. It's far away from any systems I can currently control, but it looks like there's a system over there, so let's find out what the system is all about. But this ship doesn't have a lot of movement left, and I do want to have as much knowledge about the universe as possible, so I'll just send in a bunch of probes in, one alongside the warp network and one just in a random direction closer to the galaxy's center, where there certainly are some kind of systems to be discovered. Alrighty then. Now, with our research, what do we have next to deal with? Well, dear says, we have a bunch of options depending on how well we're doing. Now, we are going to colonize this planet, which will require us to actually have the ability to gather Hyperium. It's not necessarily something that's a big priority for us, however, so we don't necessarily have to go for this ability right now. Alternatively, we can go for baryonic shielding, but right now I don't have expansion ships. I could, however, make those expansion ships, and speaking of which, I do need to retrofit them, because now I have better engines, which lets those ships be extremely fast and speedy, and this is very important because this galaxy seems to have very long traveling time between individual systems. So, with that in mind, how quickly can I make it a pupa ship? I can in fact make it instantly, but it would mean that my expansion would be delayed. I cannot allow for that to happen, so I'm just going to make it afterwards and expand to Triumph, and this is in total going to take 4 turns, which means that I indeed can go for baryonic shielding. Alternatively, I can go for rare air forms and baryonic shielding afterwards, which is also going to take me 4 turns and give me access to 2 exoplanets, and also unlock the ability to move between systems without Starlight Collection, and also to explore more stuff, which is nice. I'm still on the fence whether or not I should get the technology for colonizing Mediterranean planets though, because getting just this one technology will increase the cost of all other technologies afterwards slightly, but it's a cumulative increasement that will eventually come back to bite me in the A, which I'm not too keen on. Additionally, Hyperium is not something I value very much as a Craver, because I would rather specialize in titanium, but it looks like this galaxy is actually kind of barren in terms of titanium. I do not see a lot of sources of it, which means that the titanium I'll probably have to use on bishops that may go on my ship types, and I'll have to use Hyperium to power up my weapons. In which case, I do want to have this Hyperium, in which case I do want to have the Mediterranean planet, in which case I should go for our air forms and follow it up with baryonic shielding, but maybe not right now the baryonic shielding. This tells me that I don't need to hurry it up with baryonic shielding. Instead, what I can go for first is plasma metallurgy into rare air forms, which will take only 3 turns, give me access to Hyperium already on my home system, because I'm going to expand to a planet that does have Hyperium, give me access to a really good improvement, And let me colonize the planet is better than the other planets anyway, and I don't need to worry about savannas just yet, but I will have the savannas technology cost decrease because of rare earthworms, so that's all good. And I don't believe... No, I need rare earthworms. Maybe in 5 turns. Can I get to some other technology in 5 turns first? Let's have a quick look at multi-thread management. And it would be 6 turns most likely. Keep in mind, my technology output will increase as the time goes on, so we'll hold on making a decision for now and wait to see if our science output will increase or not. Or by how much. Alright, then let's finish the turn. It's 7 after over half an hour. If you're new to my channel, you must be so thrilled. Not only does this take forever, this playthrough I mean, but also my voice is probably really annoying to you. Because it is to a lot of people. Some people enjoy it, most people hate it. So anyway, either way, if you are still around, you probably are able to deal with this. But I have actually discovered the Unfallen home system. Go away. Go away. So, the Unfallen. Do I like standing close to them? I actually kind of do, because they are slow to expand, mind you, and this means that they're not really a competition to my plague. And as for when we actually engage in combat, if this was a human player, I would be kind of scared. The Unfallen ships can be quite efficient. However, as the AI is the one that's controlling those ships, I'm less scared and I think I should be fine. So, yeah, this is neither good nor bad of a neighbor. It's just a neighbor that I will kill one day. But as for those guys, oh wow, they expanded to Ibella already. They are fast. I'm not a big fan of that. Oh well. At least I will discover where the home system is, and it's quite far away, so these guys are moving north fast, which I'm really not a big fan of, but whatever. So, I believe we're done with this turn. Yes, indeed we are. I'm going to drink some more tea and wait for things to happen. Also, another manufacturer? Come on, how many can I have? Now, it may sound like I'm kind of annoyed by this fact, and indeed, partially I am, because the more manufacturers there are, the less systems I can colonize easily, and the more pirates there will be who will intercept my civilian ships, which I actually will rely on quite heavily. I will need those food shipments, which means that I need to employ an entire fleet just to protect myself from the pirates. The good side is that I'll have 3 factions I can declare war on for free, and this will give me a lot of extra approval. So, good stuff and bad stuff at the same time, I suppose. Anyway, as I see here, they like me for whatever reason, doesn't really matter why. And I can now try to use this scout ship because it has discovered most of the important stuff already. I can try to use him to capture this rogue ship, which I will do. I am kind of tempted to launch another probe and discover what kind of system there is over there. But seeing how the Unfallen have not expanded over there, I don't think it's a very valuable system, so... you never know. I want to know what's over there, so I will send another probe. Alright, I discovered the home system of the Vodiani. How good is it, I wonder? It's pretty bad. Alright, at least there's something that tells us that the Vodiani will not be a very big threat, at least not anytime soon. It's scary how quickly they got the second mothership, but then again, it is AI. They tend to do that. So let's keep expanding, already exploring, and see what else I can find. You go over the Scorpius. And no research queued up. Let's see, can I get this thing and then rare earthworms in 4 turns? Yes, I can in 4 turns, but people will be ready in just 2. So let's go for rare earthworms first, because that's more important. Almost bleeded, yes, we know that. Let's queue up interplanetary transport network, although I'm kind of tempted to go for indus cultivation as well. I usually skip that upgrade because it's not really necessary, but in our case we have a lot of planets we can expand to on our home system, so I'm kind of tempted to actually indeed go for that. But certainly interplanetary transport network is more important, and even more important than that could be another expansion ship. The problem is I don't think I have anywhere else I can expand to. Yeah, the deserts over there. This place I remember had a savanna planet, and this was a hot place in general. So for right now there is much I can do. Like savanna colonization, yes, I can go for that, and later on I can expand to Essa, another planet in Trime. which is something that I'll definitely do. And I can also go for Ash colonization and grab those systems, but it will be hard to maintain control growth on those systems because I'll rely only on my caravan ships to supply those plants with food in order to grow in from outpost into an actual colony. And right now I have no means to protect this, my civilian ships, so that's not really a priority for me. Anyway, rare forms I feel like are a priority, and after that I kind of want to go for multi-effort management, but I think I can delay that for a little bit longer and go for baryonic shielding next, just to allow me to expand a bit more. So I'll have baryonic shielding ready in 4 turns. Do I want to have another planet colonized in 4 turns is the question. Well, if I do that, that will drain the food supply of my home system quite considerably. But I'll talk about that next turn, because next turn interesting things will happen. So let's for the time being end the turn. Baryonic shielding is something I wanted to go for anyway. Wait a second, baryonic shielding already? Oh. Well, I didn't make actually any progress on that yet. So I don't have to go for it, but I probably will anyway. So, hey, GTA4 questionnaire, why? Okay, this is really annoying. This guy is going to be a pain. I'll have to kill him because he'll intercept my incoming vessels and also delay my expansion by a significant margin. I really hate you guys right now.
Unfallen greet you in the hopes that your goal is greater harmony.
I mean, it is. When there's nothing left in the universe but me, this will be perfect harmony, right? But no, I'm not gonna declare war on them right now, even though I want to, but this would be really, really stupid. Anyway, as for political survey, this thing tells you nothing, because it's completely useless on autocracy, which it shouldn't be, because as you can see, the political situation is more complex than that. Ecologists are still creeping in on the 2nd place, but the militarists are right now in the lead, and they want to follow my people's wishes, mind you. Also, another thing you have to take into consideration is that if you support the ecologists in the next election, this means that you have less experience on your militarist party. Would it actually matter in the grand scheme of things? In my opinion, it won't. And it's a pretty decent idea to go for ecologists if you want to expand quickly and if you have difficulty acquiring the technologies required to expand. Also, ecologists have a really good law for increasing your food production, which is quite important in my opinion. But I will follow my people's wishes because that is the most important thing of all. Which is weird for an autocracy, I know, but this is actually how things are. Alright, my planet is depleted now. Time to move on to the next. But this is now the thing that we should talk about. Should I do this, or should I instead keep my Craver population in check and only let my minor population grow? This is the second of the 3 major choices you have to make as a Craver player. Because there are 2 ways to play the Cravers. You can either try to limit your major faction population, your Craver population, and have them as little of them as possible, and only have like 1 planet depleted in each system, and the rest of the planets usable even in a late game, and just rely on your minor faction population. Now, this is a problematic approach, because first of all, the reason why I would never record anything of the sort and why I want to go for it is because it requires a ton of micromanagement. It requires you to basically check your systems almost every turn to make sure that some random Craver did not reproduce on a planet it was not supposed to reproduce on, which will happen all the time, mind you. So it's a pretty time-consuming approach. Additionally, it's not playing into your strengths, because your slaves only get benefits if there are Cravers actually supervising those slaves. Also, something back that they are supposed to be orange, I mean yellow. Now they are. Oh well, whatever. So yeah, so right now those guys are not getting any bonuses. But you are still maintaining the planet's worth by not sucking it dry, right? So there is some merit to that. Yes, but in my opinion it's not really worth it, honestly. Unless you are going for a diplomatic approach in multiplayer. In multiplayer, mind you, whenever you, for example, go for a random faction and you random Cravers, you now find yourself in a situation where you have a giant target painted on your back. Because everybody will hate you, not because you are a potential warmonger, but because you will make the galaxy awful for everybody by sucking it dry. You can try to talk your way out of this, however, by not sucking it dry and limiting the Craver population and trying to turn your empire into an empire run by basically Hiroshims and other sort. It's doable, it's difficult, and it may not work. There are some other benefits to that as well, but in my opinion it's better to play as the Plague. And as the Plague we're going to enter a high risk, high reward scenario in which I'm going to try and eat as many planets as quickly as possible. Just suck it dry instantly whenever I can at every opportunity. This is going to mean that my food output will be quite high indeed. Hold on, I want those guys to be orange, there we go. And this will allow me to continue moving forward. Now keep in mind, my economy will be our wartime economy for most of the time, which means that I will actually run on a very heavy debt deficit as the game moves on, most likely, unless some things will be randomly different than in most of my current playthroughs, but I'll probably run on debt deficit, which means that I'll rely on moving on to more planets and sucking it dry and killing ships that are turned into just raw resources as well, using again the militarist law I discussed earlier, the Spoils of War Act. So yes, I will be the plague. I'll keep moving on, changing hosts whenever I can, trying to basically annihilate the galaxy just to live on a little longer. Because it's much easier and more efficient and more effective in my honest opinion. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Alright, with that out of the way, let's move my ships. Scorpius, this ship, I think it may not be intercepted by this questioner. The questioner might also fly away, which would be nice. If it doesn't fly away, I'll do my best to kill it if I can. It's a scavenger, a Cravers ship. It might have what it takes to destroy this guy. At the very least, I hope it does. Now, as for you, dear sir, we discovered Aliov. Aliov is an interesting system. Let's go ahead and check the curiosities over here. Not because I want to improve the system, because obviously it will be taken over by the Vodiani, but things like that, random bonuses, I always use for extra influence. I will not say no to that. And a Behemoth Song anomaly and even more influence, again, that's fairly nice. Now keep in mind, I can, if I want, use this to go for lower fleet costs and make my expansion ships faster. But I don't really need to do that right now, do I? Alrighty then. Baronic Shielding is going to be the next order of business. I can get that in 2 turns, which means that I actually might want to have those people ships out as quickly as possible. And I don't think I would need to do the math, and I can't be bothered to do that. But I don't think that, judging by my current industry output, I can get this ship out on the next turn, even if I go for this fleet cost. But you know, just because I'm curious and I can spend the influence, let's check. Alright, shall we? It's not going to hurt us, and indeed I cannot get this ship out in just 1 turn. Oh well. So this means that I will probably want to get multi-thread management and then baryonic shooting, because it's going to take 3 turns and multi-thread management is actually a very important thing to have. So let's go ahead and do just that and get the people ship out as quickly as possible, because I do want to capture Essa as quickly as possible again. The more systems I have, the better. Now keep in mind, you have to be careful not to overdo this. If you overexpand, your whole system will starve, because it will keep sending out food to all the other systems, which will not be ideal by any stretch of the imagination. And you will also suffer very high approval penalties, which I'm going to suffer anyway. As you can see, my empire is right now defiant, which I cannot let happen, and oh crap, I enacted lower fleet cost. I wanted to pass the Toys for Boys Act, but I enacted another thing which I cannot cancel right now. That was dumb. So I have the options now. Either I can eat one of my minor populations, but this would delay the production of people ships, and I want to keep those guys as well, so I'm not gonna do anything of the sort. Or I can cancel the Super Tax Act, which is fine. I don't need the extra tax that desperately, and this puts me back to content value, which is good enough. So with that out of the way, you prepare to move over there-ish, and I can end the turn and drink some more tea. Now 10-10 is where the elections are going to happen, and the ship is close to us, and the enemy scout ship run away, which is good. It means that I will not have to worry of that too much. Now as for the people ship, like I said, I'm going to send it. Wait, I need 2 people ships, right? This guy is going to go to Triene, because that's the contested systems that the Vodiani might try to take away from me. I certainly don't want to have that happen to me. And that's really actually nice. The quest ship is heading all the way to Scorpius, and I needed to protect Scorpius anyway, so I'm going to guard the system, because that's what the quest actually requires you to do, and check the anomaly of the forest, because that's something I needed to do anyway. Please be nice, please be nice. It's super spats. By the way, you may be worried because sometimes discovering anomalies can reveal bad anomalies. For example, if I discover a subterranean anomaly, it may be a wholly, entirely negative anomaly with no good sense to it whatsoever. This might make you think that, well, in that case, why should you ever explore those anomalies if they can be bad? Well, the reason is that whenever you colonize a system with bad anomaly on it, or a good anomaly, or whatever kind of anomaly that is instantly obvious, it's automatically revealed. So it doesn't matter if you colonize a planet that has meteor showers, trust me, your population is going to notice that there are giant rocks falling on their heads. So don't you worry about that. Anyway, dual luxury resource discard, super spots, we don't really care about that. I mean, at some point we might, but right now we certainly do not. Alright, this ship, you're supposed to be guarding this planet. Crap. Alright, so let's see. I don't need to do anything else, I'm just triple checking because oh yeah, I need to check, and you need to check that as well. What's the situation, the political situation in your system on 1010? Because keep in mind the survey is not going to tell you, but this thing will. And the militaries are just slightly in the lead. Now what I can do is first and foremost activate the Super Tax Act and abolish this law and activate the Toys for Boys law. This will lower my science income, but for a while I can do that, and I do want to stock up on as much dust as I can in the early game. But anyway, you can, in this situation I could overthrow the people's decision and go ahead and support the ecologist party, because this would allow me to colonize whatever I wanted. But I can already colonize basically all the systems I care about. Definitely will be easy to colonize as well with ash colonization, and so I really don't need the ecologists to be in the parliament. Of course, they can give me access to some really good food laws, but I don't really care about that too much anyway. And yeah, there is no real reason to support them. Additionally, Jingo's Joyful does allow me free war declaration and also gives me extra approval from war declaration. And guess what? I can do with them in the lead. I can declare war on all of those bastards and make my people ecstatic. I don't want to do this right now. Although then again, why not actually? I just realized. I mean, those guys potentially, by exploring the curiosities, you can make them actually like you. And if you do like them, and if you do make them like you, then they'll give you benefits. But frankly, I really don't care. I'm going to leave those guys be because for whatever reason they like me. I don't know why again, but they do. And those guys also like me. It doesn't tell me why, but they do. But those guys don't really care about me. So let's go ahead and get some extra approval, and now suddenly we're still only content. Alrighty then, you guys also need to have war declared on you, and now we are happy. Now the reason why I didn't do so sooner is actually because I didn't know how this election would go. Now I know that I'm going to support the the militarists. But if I supported the ecologists, then those wars will be meaningless because they would not give me any approval whatsoever. So, and it would be just much better to just gain the trust of those manufacturers, at least for a while, because they would give you some resources as a gift. But since I'm going to support the militarists, I can just go ahead and declare war on them and reap the benefits out of that. Alrighty then. And the reason why the militarists gained so much support is because I discard so many minor and major factions. Because keep in mind that the Cravers, usually when you discover factions, this boosts the pacifist party, but Cravers have it so that pacifist party is less boosted by such events, and the militarist party is boosted whenever the pacifist party is boosted. So yeah, that's why this thing happened. Usually, in most games as the Cravers, you can go for the ecology strategy if you want to. In my case, that wasn't really an option. Alright, so I was able to capture the vessel very nicely, and I now have to bring it to my home system. It gives me access to half hull. It's not a good improvement at all. It costs a ridiculous amount of industry and saves you only a bit of dust. I'm not a big fan of it, honestly. In late game it's useful-ish, not really actually, it's never very useful. But still, I like this quest because of the ship and because of how easy it is to complete it. I didn't actually need any sort of fleet to capture this ship, and trust me, it would not be actually easy to capture, not at all. So, let's go ahead and send it over to my home system to complete the quest, and later on I will use it as a guard. For now, I'm going to use this ship to guard the Scorpius from whatever attacks may come. Already looks like Scorpius is about to be colonized, so I'll use it to guard Essa in a while. Now let's have a quick look. See, we have a Tictian population, which I actually really like. I'm very happy about that. Now, of course, having them over here on this planet would mean that they'll generate some extra disapproval because they'll be slaves. But this is again the reason why I want to declare war on those minor factions is because they will let me use more slaves. Because keep in mind, every slave gives you a hash, a penalty approval, but every war I'm in also gives me a big penalty bonus. So that's the situation we find ourselves in. Alright, let's send this guy over to Essa. I'm not going to attack those guys because for whatever reason they still love me. Probably for discovering the curiosities, but I'd still... I wish the game would tell you why these things happen. They do some things happen, I just don't know why. I'll be entirely honest about that. Alright, he'll level it up. Obviously we're going to level up his forced labor ability because it's still the most efficient one of all. And going to increase the power of our home system a lot. And Triumph is ready for colonization, so let's go ahead and colonize the Mediterranean planet. Now we have also discovered the Remnant faction and... Oh no, I skipped this! No, it was such a nice cutscene and I wanted to listen to it. No! Muscle memory. Muscle memory. Oh well, that's annoying. That was such a nice cutscene. I wanted to see it, I wanted to listen to it, but now we'll never be able to. Anyway, let's go ahead and check what I can discover on the Remnant system, make them like me, and potentially reap some benefits out of it as well. And benefits are things I always like it. And basic Magi Laser, it's basically a very good weapon for early games, so I'm not gonna say no to that. That's why you want to explore curiosities. Alright, now however, I'm faced with a situation where I can go back to my ships through the enemy territory. This will make them hate me. I could also scrap my ship entirely and make those guys not hate me. But since I'm probably going to declare war on them anyway, I might as well not worry about anything and just send my ship back that way. And I guess I'll be friendlier towards Harmony for a while. Alright then. Anything else I need to do in this particular turn? I do not believe there is. This ship, except this ship I said. This planet needs to be boosted so I can colonize it a little bit faster because it's rather important. Scorpius is going to be colonized in 110, which is nice. And I believe we were done with everything by now, so I can go ahead and end the turn and also end this video. It's almost an hour long, which is good enough for a part 1, I suppose. Usually I try to go for 45 minutes-ish videos, but in case of a first video, I try to make it a little bit longer because there's usually a lot of talking I need to do. So there we go, a lot of things are happening, some battle is declared, but for now, ladies and gentlemen, it was PANCZASU, also known as the Mighty Mix Spammer. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you online.